Okay, this is officially the fourth attempt at this video. It just decided to cut me off randomly at 20 minutes. I don't know if that's happening to some of you out there. But I think it's telling me, you gotta keep this within 20 minutes, otherwise I'm gonna cut you off. Let's get straight into it. Alright, yeah, not the flashlight. Press record, 3, 2, 1, and let's rock and roll. First and foremost, the use of multiple effects is key. I'm getting paranoid now. Okay, still recording. The use of multiple effects is very, very important, at least for me. Being able to use a reverb or the delay and then put that into some of the beat effects, using multiple things at once to create something different. We have this approach in mixing, engineering music. The use of putting the reverb into a delay, then into a compressor, or vice versa, switching things around, seeing what can come out of just experimenting, putting things together that might not work together necessarily, that might not textbook wise should be used together. That's how you create something different, and that's when you are at the point where you're creating music and not producing music anymore. You're creating art. You're creating your own expression of the music that you want to share. And that's what we're doing here. We're creating our own sort of thumbprint of how we want to approach the mix. Okay, so this is one of my signature things I like to do in the mix. We are building up, we're creating this tension, we're adding these multiple things here. And then we're picking a cue point, we're picking something that I feel is a great transitioner for a piece, something that has a bit of space, has a bit of wiggle room, if you like, something that will be cool to build up towards and then transition into, something that creates a unique moment, and this is when figuring out your cue points, figuring out where good moments are. You don't have to necessarily do all beforehand. I like to do that just because it gives me peace of mind, knowing that I do have some sort of a structure. I don't have to stress so much about it. I know, okay, this is my rough guideline, and then we can extend it, we can cut it short, we can add additional cue points. But having just some ready to go is key. Getting away from the technical aspects of 45 here or this this setting, that setting. The key point here is making sure, obviously, that it's the right volume, it's the right tempo, everything's working well, and you're making sure for this particular case that all the EQs are in line, that none of the low end isn't out. These are just standard things to bear in mind when you are switching like this. This is quite an advanced approach, advanced mixing technique, if you will, and it requires just patience and time. But the key here is having confidence. Don't necessarily look in minutiae at everything. Just focus on finding the key moments in the piece and creating something unique for yourself. And to be able to do that, you need to have confidence in your music and believe in your ability to mix. if you're doing this and you're so scared and you're not sure about it, it's not going to work. You need to be within it. You need to feel the music. You need to be within your space, focused in, and you can pull it off. So just like I said before, we're checking the levels. We've transitioned in. We're making sure everything's back to neutral. We're checking the volume, making sure the master's good, making sure the levels are good. That's key. And then what I do here is I'm adding in a new fresh cue point. I like this moment. I like where it is in the track, and I think that I can have something from it later. You don't always have to just play one song and then that's it and it's gone. You can always come back to it. You can create something new. Then again, this is why it's the art of mixing. You're creating the art form as you're mixing, and you're figuring out, I can use this point, I can add this color later, I can add a bit of red, I can add a bit of blue, I can save this for a later stage, perhaps down the line. I can come back to it, like, oh, I didn't use that one, I like that point, or I can mix in this vocal with this other one that's later down. These are things that what I think about when I am performing, when I am mixing. Okay, so we added in the new cue point. Brilliant. I can use that we're talking about later on. So here, we're adding in the slip function like we talked about previously. So you're allowing the track to play without it necessarily breaking. You're able to add the cue points, so you're able to perhaps a vocal shout in the cue point. You can press it and it doesn't automatically change to that. It essentially ignores what you're doing, and it just adds it into the continuation of the track playing, which is important. But you're able to add these the beat jumps, the effects. You're able to add different textures, different bits of ear candy that are entertaining for audience. This to me is one way of musically entertaining the audience. You don't have to be necessarily physical with the audience and shouting at the audience to get them to interact with you. The audience can respond emotionally to what you're doing, and for me that is a form of entertainment. You're providing a unique space. You're adding in these nice textures, adding in that slip function. You're adding a nice little shimmer and a little space, perhaps nice reverb, a delay, something that keeps things interesting. So now we're switching over. We're looking at the next track. So we've selected the cue point and I'm listening to it. But it happens quick. Let me just wait 1 sec. Okay, we're all good. It happens very, very quick. Because you need to be quick with something like this. So we've selected the cue point, okay? We've loaded up the next track and we're having listen, okay? And what I'm finding is that I'm not happy with the one I got, and you need to make that decision quick. And then how do you make that decision? It just comes to practice. The more you do it, you know if it's the right decision to make. So now we're searching through, but I will say that the search function and the track placement when you're switching over to the next track are very, very, very close to each other. I'm not sure if they've changed that for the very new models, but track search and track change very, very close to each other, and it's happened to me many times when you switch over to the next track. And it might not sound like a big deal, you just switch back, but you have to press it twice to switch back to the one you have. And then this search function isn't the most amazing search function. It takes a bit of time to get to the song. And if you have a 6 or 7-minute extended mix version, you want to get the a middle section at the end, it takes time. And if you only have 16 bars left, you're really pushing it. So that's something to be mindful of when you are doing this search function. You are looking for something. There is an inherent risk, but again, there is an inherent risk to always when you're creating art. Some of the best art is through mistakes, and perhaps when you switch over another one, it might be even better. You never know. So we're searching through, and we're finding the space that I want. So we've got it. Now, we select it, and we're getting ready. One thing I should have done here is added that cue point, saved it onto the bank, just so I have it in case I need it down the line. So what we're doing now is we're thinking, okay, we have this cue point, but there's a transition coming, so we can't spend too much time on this. We've got the cue point. All I wanted to do was get this next track just fundamentally ready. What I mean by that is just get the track loaded up. Select your cue point and just have it there, ready to go. Switch over to the original one that's going, and that's what we're doing now. So switching back, and there's a transition coming. We can see it in the waveform. Let's do something interesting. The glorious reverbs on this. They work well with dance music. I like how metallic they are. They're a bit electronic. They're gritty. I like it. I like what it does in the live setting, and the effect module really is a nice feature where you can use your finger to adjust and modulate things really nicely. I think that's really cool. This reverb is almost like a filter, which is fantastic. You press down on it, and it can like almost suck everything up, and then you can build up and just release, which is so cool. I love using that. Not like super often because obviously you lose its charm, but once, maybe pushing 3 times in the full mix, can be really cool and be great for your audience to listen to. The same as me spazzing out back in Sharon's recording. So fantastic feature. I recommend you trying it out if you have those effects available. If they're still available in the super new models, I'm not sure. But definitely having some external reverbs or effects available to you is a great idea. So like I talked about just before, we've added the cue point, we've set things up, we've got the fundamental ready. Now, we've switched back to the original one, we've added in the beautiful transition, done something creative. Now we're switching back because we have that time. Okay, we've set things up, we've created this moment. Now we have space for the audience to breathe a little bit, to build up to the next transition. Now we have time to adjust the tempo, to make sure things are ready, to make sure that if we need to cut the low end out, let's do that, to make sure that everything's working well, double check the cue point. Let's figure out, do we need to add any effects? Is it gonna be just a clean cut? Are we blending it in? Do we want to have 4 to 8 bars of space to blend it in? These are all things you need to think about and make the decision on the fly. That's it. That's the key. So 3 things I would like you to take away from this is number 1, you need to have confidence in your mixing. That's very, very important. You need to approach it from the perspective of, I've got this, let's do it. And trust your music. Be confident in the music you've selected and work with it. Secondly, I would encourage you to have a bit of prep. You know, I'm a person who likes to have a bit of prep available. I don't like it to be super prepped. Let me just stop the recording. I don't like it to be you know, super prepped out. I like to have space to improvise, to work with, but I also like to have a bit of a foundation there. To know, okay, I have the cue points for 30 selected songs that I have for this mix, and I roughly know what I want to do. But you know, then I can work with that. Lastly, I would encourage you to, you know, always be looking to adjust the mix, add cue points, add something that you feel could be beneficial for later. Just because, you know, you've finished that song doesn't mean you have completely finished with that song. You know, some pieces of music, especially in more underground music, you know, psytrance, for example, hard psytrance, they have multiple different transitions and breakdowns and flavors of builds and drops that can be used, and you can have one section of the drop and then have a third, you know, middle section that's completely different, and you know, use that to your advantage. You know, for example, my piece Pressure, you know, the drop in the middle is completely different. The transition in the middle is different, and the tempo is different compared to the beginning. And you know, knowing that, you can use that to your advantage, and you can mix in, you know, more progressive trance music in the middle, whilst, you know, in the harder sections you can work with your side trance, these kind of things. So always have that in mind, to be adding cue points as you go. You know, have a rough guideline of, you know, picking the main points, but then don't be afraid to search through. Just be careful. So, and press the next one. Just be open to you know, adding different cue points and adjusting them, and being able to bring it in later. Perhaps, you know, you missed out on some section like that. You know, being just open to making mistakes, and finding ways to make it look like it wasn't a mistake. You know, because some of the best moments come from, you know, a mistake that turns out really well, and that's the only way you can develop. I feel in your progression, you have to be willing to make mistakes and make, you know, silly things that people might think are silly, but you need to push yourself to grow, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get better. So there you go. I hope that all recorded well. All right, it's still recording. That's a good sign. It's still recording. I shall catch you on the next one. All right, see ya.